There have been a few NBA players that were at one time great and eventually fell off, but now have revived their NBA careers. Whether they fell off from injuries, being on bad teams, or a combination of the two, these 7 players weren't as good as they could have been, but now that they're in a good place have reminded people just how good they are. And that's the case with most players in this video, so we're gonna get into all of them, starting with the most recent. They either already have or are in the process of reviving their careers. So let's take a look at all of them, with the first being number 1, which is Joe Johnson. And Joe Johnson's a strange one. Whenever I think about him, which isn't often, I find it crazy that he's been around the league as long as he has, and that he's 38 years old right now. And that's the weird part, that he's making his comeback at that age for the Pistons. But originally for him, things started out on the Suns, where he played for a few years. Then he left for the Hawks, where he spent most of his prime and became a 6-time All-Star and one of the better scorers in the NBA, averaging about 20 points a game. Before he wound up playing as part of the Nets' failed super team for about 3 years, where he dropped down to averaging 17 a game. Was a 1-year All-Star, and as he started to age, things started to drop off pretty quickly for him. I mean, the next season, he signed with the Jazz for 2 years in a bench role, where he averaged only 8 points a game. Then wound up on the Rockets, where he played very limited minutes and only put up 6 a game, before not getting picked up by any team in the 2018 offseason, which is how he wound up in the Big 3 league. And even though he was playing against retired NBA players, he still showed out enough to attract some attention from a few NBA teams before getting picked up by the Pistons, because he was the Big 3 MVP, averaged 20 points a game, and proved he can still move around the court and shoot threes, something he wasn't really able to show teams in his limited role off the bench in his last couple of years. So he took himself from being out of the league entirely to earning a spot back on a team, and I appreciate what he did, but honestly I don't see him being anything more than a limited role player when he comes back. But hey, hopefully he proves me wrong. Then we have to stay on the Pistons team to look at number 2 in Derrick Rose. And it's well known that Derrick's been reviving his career recently with the performance he put on last year when he averaged 18 and 4 on a career high 37% from 3. He made it clear that he transformed his game and was ready to finally turn things around for himself, most notably with his 50-point performance that he put together in his first start of the year last season. But Derrick's not in the clear just yet. He also averaged 18 and 4 on the Knicks in 2016 and 17 before his season ended after 64 games due to tearing his meniscus. Then he continued to deal with injuries while playing for the Cavs the next season, only playing a total of 25 games, which was why to start out this year was so exciting for him. But he actually only ended up playing a total of 51 games this year because of an ankle and an elbow injury, so he really didn't stay as healthy as you might have thought. Hopefully he can this upcoming season though, and really avoids any injuries at all, because he made good progress towards reviving his career. He just needs to continue to prove it and stay healthy. And I mean, it's not like it's getting to be too late for him because he's still only 30 years old. Then for number 3, we're staying on the Pistons one last time with Blake Griffin. And the Pistons are looking like the land of second chances right now, with 3 guys all in the process of reviving their careers. And they're hoping it all pays off. But Blake's one of the guys that has clearly completely turned things around for himself. After having one of the best rookie seasons we've seen in a long time, where he put up 22 and 12 and dunked on everybody, Chris Paul joined the team and created Lob City for the next few years, where Blake would become a 5-time All-Star. But injuries happened in 2015, and even though his stats stayed consistent for the next 3 years, he didn't make the All-Star team and wasn't thought of as a threat that he once was. At only 26, he started to plateau and was averaging just 21 points a game for the next 3 seasons. And his game only consisted of being able to shoot mid-range shots, posting up, or scoring on the fast break. And he was no longer on the path to being a star and having a future that people once thought he would. It looked like he wasn't developing and wasn't putting in the work to becoming a superstar anymore. But then he was traded to the Pistons and everything immediately changed. And in his first full season there was when he really changed up his game and brought his reputation back. He had started shooting some threes in 2017, but in this past season, he really took things to another level. In his first 8 years in the league, he took a combined 593-point shots, and in his first 5 seasons, he averaged less than 1 attempt per game. In this past season with Detroit, he shot 522 threes and averaged 7 attempts a game on a solid 36% from 3. I've mentioned it in the past, but him getting traded out of LA played a huge part in his turnaround, because in Detroit there was no more distractions, and he could focus solely on the game, and that's what he did. He became an all-star again and averaged 24, 7, and 5 in what was the best season of his career. And it is worth mentioning he was able to stay healthy for the entire season. And now his future looks bright again. People are excited to see what he's going to do next year and how good he's going to be able to come back. And I think if he comes back once again showing big improvements in his game, then we'll without a doubt be able to say that he revived his NBA career. Number 4, JaVale McGee. There may be no one on this list who's revived their career more than JaVale McGee. I mean, he was inconsistently a solid center throughout his career, and when he wasn't playing good, he was a reigning Shaq and a full MVP. For a long time, he was known as one of the goofiest players in the league, and a guy that everyone made fun of. On the court though, he was solid in Washington and Denver, but dealt with injuries and bounced around to Philly and Dallas, before ending up in Golden State. And his role for the Warriors wasn't big. I mean, he only played 10 minutes a game in his 2 years there. But hey, it made him a 2-time NBA champion, and you gotta believe that playing a part in that and being in a winning environment gave him a huge amount of confidence to be able to do what he did for the Lakers this past season. Which, don't get me wrong, wasn't anything too fantastic in the grand scheme of things, but for him personally, he averaged near career highs in minutes played, rebounds and blocks, and averaged a career high in points per game with 12, and field goal percentage at 62%. And now he's found himself as the real starter on a potential championship team. He could lose out the spot to Dwight Howard down the line, but for now he's in the best position of his career, by really just being given a chance on a few great teams that believed in him. Number 5, Mike Conley. And personally, Mike hasn't really done anything to revive his career, but the situation he's been put in has. I mean, he was on some solid playoff teams, but he's never been an all-star, and has been on a bad Grizzlies team the past couple of seasons. But this past year, he played the best of his career when he averaged 21 and 6, and now finally got out of Memphis and onto the Utah Jazz. And it's weird to think that someone's career is being revived who never personally made any mistakes, but he's gone from an underrated player on a tanking team to a playoff team and someone people are calling possible title contenders. And the fact that he's teaming up with a lineup this good gives him a chance to really show how good he's become, and maybe even finally make the all-star team depending on how well Utah plays. It seems like he's the perfect fit with Donovan Mitchell, and he's the real factor that took the Utah Jazz to the next level. And I think it'll be this second half of Conley's career that'll really define the type of player he's going to be remembered as when it's all said and done. And number 6 is in a similar position in Lou Williams. Lou's been a 6-man his entire career, and he spent a lot of years being a decent player for Philly and Atlanta, but then he moved to the Raptors, and even though they weren't a great team, that's where he won his first 6-Man of the Year award for averaging 15 points a game. But then he lost his way a little bit, and again, for him too, it's not like it was his fault. He signed with a bad Lakers team, but for himself personally, he was still able to average an improved 17 points a game for his time there, before getting traded to the Rockets for the second half of the season. And with his talent being wasted on both of those teams, for a little bit there, it made people forget why he was the 6-Man of the Year, and just how much potential he still had, and how good he really was. But since signing with the Los Angeles Clippers, he's found his spot, and as we know, has won the 6-Man award for the past 2 seasons. It pretty much made him the leader of the team off the bench these past 2 years, and now he's made himself into a serious threat on a real championship level team. And on top of that, he's also in the process of making his case for being the greatest 6-man of all time. It's crazy that at 32 years old, Lou is still getting better every single year. And like I said, he never really fell off, but then he played on bad teams and now he's playing better than ever, and is gonna be a third option on a lot of people's favorites to win it all this year. And plus, even if his numbers drop next year, it's not gonna be a problem because he's gonna have to be sharing the ball more. As long as they don't fall off a cliff, he'll be alright. So I think he deserved a spot for this video. Then number 7 goes to Danny Green. And this one might be a little bit of a stretch, but I'm trying to get creative here. I mean, I just remember Danny Green playing a big part in the Spurs 2014 championship run. And since he's more of a role player, you didn't really hear much from him on the Spurs since then, other than him making the all-defensive second team in 2017. I mean, he rarely ever averages double digits in a season, and although he always comes up huge in the playoffs, the Spurs didn't have too many serious runs after beating the Heat, but then Danny signs with the Raptors this past season and played a big part in helping them win their title. And now he's going to be a starter on the Los Angeles Lakers, who are obviously another potential championship team. I feel like his run with the Raptors really brought back a lot of the hype around him and really reminded people of how great he is. I mean, he shot 45% from 3 last year and can play elite level defense, and he's the perfect role player on any NBA team. The point is though that like the other 6 of these guys, Danny Green has revived his NBA career. And that's gonna wrap up the video. I considered including a couple of other guys, but they didn't make the final cut. So if there is anyone that I should have included but didn't, comment down below and let me know. Drop a like, subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.